Welcome back to the Voices of Madison Park. Today, we're talking about health and wellness with two special guests from the Boston Public Health Commission School-Based Health Center at Madison Park. Today, we have Dominique Antoine, a nurse practitioner, and Howard Brown, a social worker. They're here to talk about physical and mental health, resources available for students, and how to take better care of yourselves. Dominique, Howard, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So to kick things off, can you both introduce yourselves and explain what you do?
Sure. I'm Dominique Antoine. I am a nurse practitioner here with the Boston Public Health Commission and the School-Based Health Center in Madison Park. I'm the site manager, so I basically coordinate all of the moving parts here.
I'm Howard Brown. I'm a clinical social worker with the Public Health Commission, school-based health here at Madison Park, and I've been with the commission 13 years, I think.
It's always interesting to hear what drives people. Why did you choose to work in healthcare and social work?
Well, I think it started when I started volunteering at a crisis hotline. I found that I really enjoyed it, and I seemed to have some skill at it, and it just progressed from there. Working in human services and then going to grad school and coming to Boston.
You have anything to add on?
Yeah, for me, I was always a curious kid. I'm one of those people to this day. I always ask why. So that mixed with the fact that I love to nurture, I love to give, I love to help people. Nursing was just a natural progression in my life.
So for students who might not be familiar, what services does the school-based health center provide?
So for me, first of all, we do a very holistic approach to healthcare. As you know, Howard is our social worker, so he works very much with the mind. I work with the body. So I do episodic illnesses, like if you have a sore throat, stuffy nose, period cramps, anything like that, you can come and see me. I also do sports physicals and reproductive health care. So if you have questions about your body systems, if you need birth control, access to other resources, I also will help with that as well. And we have a community health worker who also assists with like insurance and other parts of reproductive health care as well.
Okay, I'm curious, Wayne.
I provide counseling services. One of the things I do here is I can work with students who start as freshmen and throughout the time that they're in the school. The consistency is very important. Sometimes I work with people on short-term issues, sometimes long. I'm not limited by any particular point. If there's questions about family, school, there's been a loss in the family, or they're just trying to figure out some of the challenges of being a teenager, I'm more than happy to listen and sit. I think it's also important to emphasize is that we are strictly confidential. One of the things I often say to the students is, while I might work in the school, we are bound by certain rules and laws that dictate we cannot discuss personal information, with the exception of danger to self and others, and possibly mandated reporting.
So based on your experience at Madison Park, what are the most common health concerns that students come to you with?
Oh, for me, it would be possibly depression, some challenges with their peers, a lot of drama at school, as they describe it, a loss of a friend or family member. Sometimes it would be based on ongoing health issues, or it could be something that occurred in the community, whether a car accident or some sort of unexpected event. Other students will come in and are just trying to process where they fit in the world, who they are. Oftentimes it may be just among their peers, or it could be much greater things. It's an opportunity to explore. As I often say to them, I don't tell you what to do. I only ask the questions, and you figure it out as we go along.
All right, Dominique, do you care to add anything?
Sure. For me, it's a little split between like sports physicals. So if you're a kiddo who is playing like basketball, I think softball is happening right now for the girls. I do a lot of those for clearance, and reproductive health care is also a big one for me. So having kids learn about their body systems in general, like a lot of kids just don't know how their body works. So I do a lot of education and teaching, and then also just making sure that they have access to birth control and understanding what birth control is, because it's not just to prevent pregnancies. It can also address other types of health concerns, and just having kids understand themselves in that regard.
Sometimes it's the little things that make a big difference. What's one simple daily habit students can do to stay healthier?
Drink water.
Water.
Simple thing to stay healthy. Talk to people that you trust if you feel the need to.
So mental health can be a tricky spot sometimes. How can students recognize when they need help?
Well, I think it can come in so many different ways. It can be the disruption of their sleep patterns. It can be how they interact with people. It's interesting when you think about someone who might be experiencing some sadness or depression. They may present as being very quiet and reserved or agitated. So if it seems like they don't feel quite right, I think that might be something going on, other than the physical. If they feel like they're feeling very isolated and they have no one to talk to because they need to talk to someone, I think that's also an indication.
Would you like to add anything?
No, I think that was very well said.
Okay. Speaking about mental health, what are some of the misconceptions students might have about it?
Let's see. One of the misconceptions, I believe, is that if you're feeling down or sad or depressed, the word depression seems to really bother people, that it means that it's just you, nobody else. That it's there's something wrong with you for feeling bad about stuff, and that's just not true. We all feel bad at times, but I think people feel self-conscious thinking I shouldn't feel bad about A, B, C, and D. And it could be anything from breaking up with a partner or the loss of a pet. Having feelings and not feeling good is part of who you are as a person, and you shouldn't feel ashamed about it. I'm not big in. I try to avoid people who sit and insist that they should just suck it up and move on. It doesn't work that way.
Let's dive a little deeper into mental health. What are the biggest challenges that teenagers face today?
The biggest challenge, the changing world. Right now, there's concerns about, for some students, the fear of being picked up off the street. Changing in families. Sometimes families, if they're beginning to dissolve or change, has been a real concern. Violence for some students. I think, especially for seniors, the idea of what's next. They've spent the last 13 years having a routine. You get up, go to school start in September, ending June. You learn certain things, you move on. Now, for many seniors, and my experience has been for seniors about to graduate, there's that realization that those routines are done. And now it's a whole new world, and they don't know if they're quite ready for it or it's going to be different. In some cases, they assume that now that they're graduated or they're 18, they have to leave the house, go on their own, and survive in the world. And that can be very challenging and discomforting for many.
What would you say are some of the biggest challenges?
I think the fear of the unknown is definitely a big one. I certainly agree with Howard on that one. I think social media is also a big one. Kids are inundated every single day with a lot of information and a lot of misinformation. And especially with what I do, a lot of kids get their information about their bodies and how things, especially like how sex works, from online. And a lot of times it's just not true. So I think having access to information is a great thing, but having access to too much information is also not a great thing. So, yeah.
Stress and anxiety seem to come up a lot when we talk about students. How can they manage those feelings better?
Well, I think certainly they need to find someone they can speak to about it, and explore what works for them. Some students find relief in, let's say, exercising. Some find relief in talking to people. It varies on the individual. One of the advantages of counseling, especially when you're doing individual, is that you have a therapist who's going to work with you and find what works for you. It's also important to recognize that we all feel stress at some point or another. And right now for students, it can be whether, I think the quarter's almost over, the question of grades, how that people are going to respond to that. It can be what's going on at home. It can be what happens in the future. I think one of the things that Dominique mentioned, social media, is there's a lot of information going out. Some of it's not correct, and so people get caught up into, what's happening in the world, and they become somewhat anxious about, where they're going to be in the economy and everything else, or finding jobs for that matter.
So Dominique, like you said, social media is such a big part of life for teens now. How do you think it impacts mental health, both positively and negatively?
I I think for positively, like I said, having access to information and other people's great because you can definitely find community outside of your natural community. So kids who are able to connect with people from all around the world, finding groups that really resonate with them, finding hobbies online, I think that that's very important. It gives them a space to be themselves, a space to really express themselves, and I think that that's wonderful. But the downside of that is bullying. When I was a kid, a long time ago, but long enough. But when I was a kid, it was like you could just go home. Like the bullying kind of stopped, whereas online, people can follow you. And there's a serious pressure to always be online, to always be on call. And I think that that adds to a lot of stress and anxiety as well, that need to always be like aware of something, to always be in the know. So, yeah.
Mr. Brown, do you have anything to add on to that?
Well, I think in regards to social media, I think one of the things that I'm not particularly thrilled with is I think it isolates people because you're not outside engaging one another. I think if that occurred, I think there'd be far less of, as Dominique mentioned, the bullying, because people can be really nasty if they think no one can see them. Mm-hmm. There are certainly pluses to it, but my concern is that as we continue, people become more and more isolated, and I think that certainly doesn't help their mental health. And just the idea that they need to be on because they're afraid they're going to miss out on something important, that can be a challenge.
So if a student notices a friend struggling, what's the best way they can support them?
I would say tell them they recognize it looks like things not going too well. Try to be as supportive as possible, and also, offer the idea of going to meet with somebody. One of the advantages of meeting with a therapist, or in just my particular case, I'm not family, I'm not friends, not your teachers. I'm pretty, I'm an objective individual. I don't make judgments on how things are going, nor do I look at you and say, well, I remember what you were like when you were 12. So it's a fresh pair of ears, a non-judgmental brain, and I think that can be helpful. But I think if a friend is able to, look, let's go, I'll walk with you to this and see if you're interested in it. And also I think I have a lot of respect for kids who will tell their friends, yeah, I did meet with a therapist, it was helpful. It takes a lot to do that. So if they've had that experience, share that.
Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I agree with Howard. I think destigmatizing mental health in general is a great way to start. Like, don't make fun of your friends if you notice that they are seeing a therapist, if they are feeling down, if they are feeling anxious. Like, we need to humanize those experiences. And also, don't be afraid to tell a trusted adult in your life. Like, if you, like, we're here, so we, like Howard said earlier, like, we only tell people outside of ourselves information if we're concerned about your safety. But other than that, everything stays within the health center. So don't be afraid to reach out, even if it's on, like, behalf of your friend.
Sometimes life feels overwhelming. What advice do you have for students that are trying to balance school, responsibilities, and their own well-being?
I think it's important to make sure that with all those things, you find time for yourself, something that is, if you like to do something, I often think, for some folks, if they want to play basketball, finding a place to do that and lose themselves in the game. I do some relaxation with people. One of the things I do is we visualize swimming. Some kids like to do that. And finding something for yourself that you don't have to feel like it's a requirement, but just taking care of yourself. Making sure you get enough sleep. Making sure you're eating right. I think, unfortunately, food is a factor for many families, and getting healthy food is even more of a factor because it's ridiculously more expensive than, the questionable food that some people eat. But I think finding ways of taking care of yourself. And each person's going to be different. Some folks might enjoy coloring. I have coloring books. Kids, that a lot of times they love doing that. So separating themselves from what's going on, allow them time to do that. Shutting down the electronics an hour before going to bed. And I know that's a lot to ask, but we know there's enough research that says those things will stimulate the brain and make it harder to sleep. Getting enough sleep. I know that many don't do that, and I think that certainly does have an effect on how they're doing things. So I think those are a number of ways of trying to take care of yourself. and having supportive friends and family.
So Dominique, let's talk about your journey. What inspired you to become a nurse, and how did education shape your career?
So I was inspired to be a nurse, honestly, by my mom. So she was actually pregnant with me, and she was in nursing school, and she dropped out when she found out that I was soon to be arrived. So knowing that growing up, that really just touched my heart a lot. She gave up a lot for me, so I always kind of felt like I needed to carry that torch on behalf of her and for her. And also, like I said earlier, I'm a very curious person. I love science. I love learning. I love reading. I love asking why and figuring things out. And healthcare is just one big puzzle, and you kind of have to figure out those pieces of the puzzle. So, yeah, that's kind of what brought me here. But as far as like my journey to public health, I am a Northeastern graduate for undergraduate, and they have a public health class that we took for nursing school, and it changed my life completely. I fell in love with public health and community health, and I knew that I had to and wanted to serve my community, especially in Boston, and here I am.
Howard, same question to you. What led you to your social work, and how has the experience been for you?
What I wanted to do as a kid and what I wanted to do when I got to college is completely different than what I ended up doing. Frankly, if someone had told me that I was going to be a clinical social worker, I would have thought they were insane. But over time, working in the hotline and working various occupations in the health field, I really enjoyed what I was doing, and I know at some point I embraced the field and found that there was a lot I could do with it, and it gave me an opportunity to do more. So I'm very proud to be doing this and very happy to be doing it. I can't really imagine doing anything else. I think the kind of lesson I learned from that for myself was never say never. You might be surprised at what you do.
So what are some steps a student should take if they want to become a nurse or a therapist?
Do you want to go first?
Well, it's funny. There are some programs, some schools, I used to do it in another school, we did peer mentoring, and for some students we started teaching them some of the very basic skills of being a good listener. And I think that's part, not necessarily being a therapist, but being a good listener and being there for their friends. And I think that moves up. As I said before several times, one of the best experiences I had as an adult was when I started working on the hotline. I had no experience before, learned, I had some good people who were being supportive, and that's what I got into. In the field of social work, you can certainly, if people are interested in it, they can go to college for undergraduate. Social work or human services, I must say, for undergraduate, and then go on to graduate level. It happens that right now I've been teaching at Bunker Hill as an adjunct faculty for, last year it was ethics and human services, and actually this year I'm teaching a psych course here in the school.
Do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, I would say for nursing, similarly, like just follow your heart, honestly. Just follow whatever is inspiring you. But more importantly, you need to find community. It is very difficult sometimes, especially if you are a person of color, to be in the health field, but especially nursing. So you need to find a mentor or some sort of group of like-minded individuals, of people who look like you, who can help to guide you, because nursing school is going to be one of the toughest things that you do, and you will need an anchor. So find your people, find your person, and really just believe in yourself.
So Dominique, we heard you're a big foodie. What's your favorite restaurant in Boston?
Right now, it's probably Brassica Kitchen. It's literally right down the street, right across from, what do you call it? From the T station down there. Oh my God, I'm blanking on it. But yeah, anywho, it's Brassica Kitchen. They have a risotto that I could literally eat like 3 bowls of by myself. So, recommend it.
Yeah. And Howard, flying lessons, that's awesome. What was that experience like?
I did it after grad school. I learned how to fly fixed wing gliders, so it had no engine. It was great. And frankly, it was great stress reduction because you're too busy trying to keep the thing up versus anything else that was bothering you. Yeah, whatever was bothering you But it was an amazing experience. I'm sorry I did about 30 flights, but yeah, time and cost became a factor. So, but I have fond memories of that, and it was something I wouldn't mind doing again. And it's a great, if people are okay with small cockpits and no engine, it's a great experience.
So on a serious note, what's the most rewarding part about your job?
For me, I just love seeing the kids smile and like knowing that they know that there is someone here who wants to see them, who cares about them, who isn't even related to them, but is very much invested in their health, their well-being, and their success. Like seeing them just shine bright anytime they come in, even if it's just for a hello or a hug, like that just brightens my day.
So let's bring it back to the students. How do they sign up for services at the school-based health center?
So we have an administrative assistant named Denise. I'm sure a lot of the folks here will know her. She's in the health center. She's the first person you see when you walk in. And you can always ask her, like, hey, I'd like to sign up. You can ask one of us as well, but she's the first person you see. And she will give you a packet of information that your parents can read through. They have to sign the paperwork for you to be fully consented, meaning that I get to see you for medical appointments, such as like the sports physicals and sore throat and whatnot. But if you want to sign up for reproductive health care, you do not need your parent's signature. That is very much confidential. You just sign yourself. You can also get that paperwork with us at the health center. We're on the 3rd floor, right next to the nurses' station. So, yeah.
So before we wrap up, what's one final message you'd like to share with students regarding the school-based health center?
You know, you just used a really good word there. You said share. I think students should share how they're doing with other people, and if it's with us, that's great. If they want to just sit and vent and share what the struggles are, then they've got people who are going to listen, and they're not going to judge. One of the things that I also emphasize when I work with kids is they can talk about whatever they want in there. They can vent if they want. That's fine. If they want to play chess, which is what I do with many of them, that's fine too, because I find that to be very therapeutic. A lot safer than flying.
What about you, Dominique? You have anything to add?
Yeah, if you need a reason to smile or to laugh, come and see me. I promise you, I will make you laugh. You can ask Howard about that.
So
Tell one of my bad jokes.
So Howard, I still got to challenge you for a chess match.
Oh, yeah. I'm not that good, but I'm more than happy to play.
All right, thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
The work you do is so important, and we appreciate everything you do for the students at Madison Park.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right. For anyone listening, if you need support with physical health, mental health, or anything else, don't hesitate to reach out to the School-Based Health Center. That's it for this episode of the Voices of Madison Park. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.